Hello, dear listener. I have something truly special to share. It's an exclusive invitation to join me in Mexico for an intimate and luxurious 3-day retreat along the beautiful Pacific coast of Zihuatanejo, taking place the weekend of the spring equinox, March 18th through the 20th. There's also an optional day to stay through the 21st for some special ceremonies that are happening in the area for the equinox. But the retreat itself is the 18th through the 20th, really an opportunity not to be missed. And I'm offering one lucky listener a discounted ticket on this weekend that I've just been loving into being actually for several years now as COVID and, everything. But when we conceived of building this place, our home down here, it's really what we envisioned, bringing people down here for retreats, for trainings, because we felt and we knew that this space was special. And as people keep coming down and we keep getting the feedback, how magical it is, we want to share it in a really intentional way. Be working with the 4 elements, earth, air, fire, water, the metaphors of the season. We'll set sight on a new vision for our mothering journey and creating a deeper connection to self and Mother Nature. So to win a discounted ticket, rate and review this show on Apple Podcasts. Screenshot it and DM it to me on Instagram at Dr. Gertrude Lyons. And remember, the most important thing to mother is yourself. Give yourself permission to take a retreat this year. And besides, who said mothers can't go on a spring break? I'll see you there.
This is a Soulfire production. Welcome to Mother. No, it's Mother. Welcome to Mother, the show where we can explore our inner mothers to actualize our greatest selves. Through interviews with incredible guests, live coaching sessions, and my own experiences, we're going to dive deep into embracing feminine values and reparenting ourselves. So be prepared to show up, hold space, and be mothered in a way you never have before, but have always needed. It's time we rewrite the Mother code. Hi, and welcome to today's episode of Mother, a live coaching session with Natalie. Truth be told, the live coaching sessions are becoming my favorite. I do love all the things that I get to do on the podcast, but there's something for sure so raw and vulnerable on both sides to, do a coaching session, which is generally a very private thing, and allow everybody to listen. So today, Natalie shares about new motherhood and the vulnerabilities with that and some of her desires and bringing more of her yearnings to the table and looking at what does it really take to be satisfied and what's in the way of her having it just how she wants it, because there's lots of beautiful things about this part of her journey. And of course, in any new transition and big upheaval, which is what I'm hoping all women can relate to, and actually everybody who listens to this, to just see how, when we have something very new and big in our life, our unfinished business shows up. And some of the things that, we can kind of get by really, really show up. And we have the opportunity to look at it. And that's what she's doing. So Natalie really looks at what's in the way of her being fully satisfied and getting herself mothered in such a way that there's tons of things she's doing beautifully, but there's places she wants more. And how do we allow ourselves to open up to deserving more, to doing what it takes to get what we know would bring us even more satisfaction and fulfillment, and ultimately end up allowing us to mother those around us even more beautifully and, from a really sustained place. So come on the journey with us and, be in it for yourself as you listen in areas that maybe, you need to go for more of your satisfaction and what's in the way of you fully mothering yourself. Here we go. Hi, Natalie.
Hi, Gertrude.
Well, welcome to my podcast. And this is obviously, as you know, because you're invited here, but a unique one. And I think extra special. I have to say, maybe my favorite podcast where I get to be with women, with individuals in a coaching capacity. So, I'm aware that that's super vulnerable. And so I give extra thanks and praise for you raising your hand to say that you want to come on my show and do this. So thank you so much and welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Gertrude.
Yeah. So we're going to jump right in. And how I want to kick us off this afternoon is for you to think about, you knew that we had this session and what's been on your mind. All right. Like I know a little bit about your life, but our audience doesn't, but kind of what's on your mind and heart that if in this time that we have together on this podcast, I actually somehow magically had a magic wand and could give you anything and everything that you wanted out of this session, what would it be?
I'm trying to think as far as any maybe challenges or hurdles I've had recently with my couple or our family. I think, as you know, a big one is Patrick, my husband, and I, and our son, 5-month-old son, Liam, we are still living with my parents. So it's been going very well. We've been with them since July of last year. And we really are ready to start looking at homes and moving out. Of course, the housing market right now is crazy.
Depends on where you're looking, right?
Right. It depends where you're looking. And that's another thing. We still aren't quite sure where we want to land. But it's been an interesting dynamic just navigating the different relationships at home. My relationship with my parents, and then my relationship with Patrick, and how Patrick and I can find a little bit more alone time. We've gotten used to just the cadence of, weekly dinners and things like that, but really making more time for the two of us and for the three of us as a family. So that has been a bit of a challenge. And then I think too, I realized recently, like it was the first time, actually you posted about this on Instagram about how going to Target is not self-care, which I totally agree with. But what I realized is that since Liam was born, it was my first trip like that. So 5 months. And I have not really taken a lot of time for myself. And this was actually something that I brought up with Patrick, my husband, in conversation last night, just like how he could support me better in that. So I think maybe learning to be more assertive.
Yeah, beautiful. Well, that sounds like a theme. Yeah, exactly. Your self-care. So self-care feels like a theme, right? Because your self-care around your living situation, current and prospective, right? And that whole journey, then an adventure that you're going to be on in that realm, self-care in your relationship with your husband, and then your assertiveness in creating that for yourself. So if we look at okay, now the magic wand really, so we named the areas that we'd like the magic wand to work on, right? And now I have it, and it worked. It did its magic, and I now have these things. What there's no right answer to this. It's more what comes to mind. Like I'm now living in the reality of these things manifesting. What are just some pictures that you have, or feelings, or thoughts? It can be concrete, intangible, any of that.
Well, one, I kind of go back in my mind to a morning where Liam slept until like 7, and I had slept through the night, and I was awake at 5:30, and I was able to meditate to start my day, get a workout in, have my lemon water. And that is a little package of things that I know really make me feel great. But it doesn't always happen, or very rarely happens, I feel, because Liam's sleep schedule is still all over the place. And it's just difficult to find that time because a lot of times when he does then take a nap, I get caught up in other things. I have been getting my workouts in, which is great. But I feel like meditation has fallen to the wayside, and I feel so much more aligned when I do make time for that. So I definitely see that becoming more a part of my regular routine if everything is, in the flow, and working out after that magic wand has been waved.
Now we'll look at what it's going to take, because obviously, but the magic is it's going to be actually in your intention. And then, there'll be concrete plans that we can have around it. And then also we'll look at any blocks or barriers that might be in the way of you have this, but let's still just be in it's happened and you're living it. So you're, most mornings or more mornings are, have these aspects that, really provide you kind of the nourishment, the sustenance that you need for your self-care, for your day, for your well-being.
I think, me being able to go to a yoga class on the weekends without like thinking about it.
Yeah.
And
it's done. You have yoga.
What that means for Liam and all of the rest. I also see right now, I haven't fully gone back to work and I miss that. But the hurdle there is just finding the right childcare for Liam and being at my parents' house. That also adds another layer of complexity because they'd prefer not to bring anyone in home, and which I totally understand. I think if I could have it my way, we'd have somebody come to the house and be with Liam. So being able to find childcare and then cross that hurdle of, okay, I'm going to do this and actually, know that I'm not going to be with him, or I might miss a milestone or whatever it might be. And being okay with that, because there's a little bit of fear, I think, around that as a new mom.
For sure.
So having I guess more of a clear flow, or like getting into a good cadence of my work life versus my mom life. Or I don't even know that they should be divided necessarily, but just finding a harmony there.
Right. So what I'm hearing in that vision, Natalie, is, you're weaving work back into your life, into your world, and it's seamless. There's, you don't feel like you're so compartmentalized that, it's one or the other, but there's a flow to it. You have a great childcare situation set up that you feel really good about and works for everybody in your current situation, and gives you the space and freedom to mother in the other worlds that you mother, which I know your writing career means a lot to you. And, it's a huge gift of yours that you want to give to the world and manifest.
Right. And I think too, on that line is just being able to have my own income again. And I know that's also a request from my husband as we look at buying a home and putting a down payment in, and like what our buying power with 2 incomes versus just his, and how that plays into it. And that's been kind of interesting too, is just like not having that income, but mothering Liam all week, and how I still might have like some fears around asking my husband for money, which is interesting. Kind of, it's been interesting for me. And, I've talked with my sister about it, and she's like, well, she shared how she thinks, if it wasn't for me, you'd be paying a nanny or a childcare service to be watching him. So there should be maybe some type of like allowance, or like, you shouldn't be so hung up over asking for that type of thing. I don't know. That's been an interesting, I don't know, pent up emotion, I think, for myself throughout this entire experience of transitioning into motherhood and, mothering Liam and not having that income.
Well, just stay with those feelings, Natalie. I mean, I think there's emotions under all of this. You're touching on like all the, the anxieties or the
lots of things,
the provoking things that, once you've invited a child into your life that you need to navigate. Right. And all the push pulls and relation, and the relationships that need to get tended to. But I particularly, when you started talking about the finances, what emotion are you aware of as you talk about that?
Well, right now, like me as a business owner, I didn't have a maternity leave paid for the way most, or women who are, working for a company who have a paid maternity leave will have that advantage, I guess. And so that has been, I, worked really hard last year so that I could still be able to pay myself during the time that I wasn't working full time. But I guess now I'm getting to this point of, I've been off of full-time work for a while and still need to pay my own bills and, things like getting my hair done or getting a facial, which are also forms of self-care for me. I really enjoy facials and massages and that sort of thing. And so just being really, I guess I'm really cognizant of the money that I'm still able to pay myself and what I'm spending it on. And like having a little bit of like, I don't know, I guess when I had like a really steady income when I was working full time, I just didn't really think as much about it. So maybe like fear that it's going to run out, because it would if I, continued this way. And then even though my husband has an income, like he's always been used to just kind of, that's his income and I have my income. And now we have a child too, and they're, expensive. And so just like
little beans, not so much money.
Like money conversations are difficult, I think. And, I don't know, like he's been super supportive, I think, through it all, but yeah, it's like in my own hang up of like being afraid to ask for money or something. I don't know.
Well, are you willing to explore this a little under some more layers with this one?
Sure.
Because I think there's a number of things that I think are possible to explore in this one, Natalie. And I mean, kind of a big overarching one. Do you mind if I share like a thought or kind of
please,
theory or concept that I'm having around all this, and even the other conversation that you're having? If we focus on this, I think we'll be able to generalize to some of the other ones. But it's really, I'm noticing, and you can tell me if this is true, that there's definitely a limit for what you feel like you deserve, or, and even under that, like a certain amount of mattering. And I'm going to call it entitlement, but I don't mean that in a superior way, but that you're really understanding that your happiness is paramount to the family. And this, I'll probably say more than once today, but if mom is happy, everyone's happy. So when I say that, or any of these things, like, what do you notice, or what comes up for you?
I think too, my husband says that a lot, or he says, if mama ain't happy, nobody is happy. Which when he says it, I mean, I agree with, but I also feel like, don't put all of that on me, like don't make it seem like that I control the energy of our family and everything else, because that feels like a lot to carry. Or does it make me sound like I'm like a bitch or something
I think you're
so like, these are all the things that come to mind, I guess.
Totally. And I think you're underscoring my theory that, you hear that and you think it's a to-do versus a like to-do for you. Whereas it's a to-do for him to find out what you need to make you happy. Like, yes, he might not know. And you might be responsible to, just like you just shared with me, how I want my mornings, and this or that. That's what makes me happy. So you need to figure out how we're going to make that happen, because if mama's going to be happy and everyone's going to be happy, and then the finance situation, same thing. My happiness is paramount here. We need to come to a next level of understanding or togetherness, and probably dig into and dig under. And that's something else we can explore a little bit here, kind of our own histories with money, our own beliefs, and what would it mean if we combine them, any of the permutations that currently aren't happening. Let's explore what it would look like if they did. So any of those, I just said a whole lot. So any thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think that one thing that you just said was thinking about how I approach that conversation with my husband. So we can maybe dig into that.
Yeah. What does it look like in the past? And if we had the magic wand, what would it look like?
I mean, it would just be easy. It wouldn't be like a question, but I think maybe we're getting there, because he and I are getting there, I guess, just in that we have had the conversation a couple of times recently, and including, I mean, not just on the money aspect, but also about what I need, like from him, where I need support from him. Like, even it was interesting. I don't know if this is going to be changing the subject or continuing on it, but so recently my sister slept over at the house, and the morning, it was like a Saturday or Sunday morning, and it was 6:30 and like Liam was waking up and she's like, I'll watch him and give him a bottle and you can go back to sleep. And I was like, oh, wow, that's amazing. And I slept until 8:15. And I realized that like my husband had never done that for me since, and I don't want to like bash him because he's absolutely amazing.
Well, I think we can make that caveat. I know you guys have, a strong, beautiful relationship and but we want to look at some of the things that, aren't working and like, oh, I don't like that behavior. Like I see that I would want that now.
Mm-hmm. And so like with this, like, and I brought it up to him. And I think I always just, he wakes up, he's right now working for our family and wakes up at 5 a.m. Monday through Friday. And so the weekends I see as like his opportunity to sleep. And a lot of times if I am or was waking up with Liam in the middle of the night, he'd still, hear me rustling around or whatever. And so I was just always like, I didn't feel like I was deserving of that necessarily, like being able to sleep in because it was something for him to do instead, but I guess like my sister being so selfless in her and like really giving in her gesture made me feel like, I know she wakes up early every morning during the week too. Why do I feel like I can let her why do I allow her say yes to her? And then B, why haven't I asked my husband or why hasn't he done this for me? I don't know that it's just like,
but notice the discomfort that comes. Yeah, but there's something that feels very uncomfortable for you to have those expectations. And like your sister offered, you didn't ask her, right? She offered, and it probably wouldn't even have crossed your mind to ask her. No, or if it did, you would have been like, oh, I would never do that. But once you had somebody offer, you're like, oh, but you don't expect that. And I think I do know you a little bit. So do you mind if I share something? It's not super personal that I know about you. Like you are a caretaker, right? And you are someone who takes ownership of things and can sometimes fall on the over responsible side, which then leaves, less of an expectation for those around you to, I don't know that, equal, so this is a wonderful opportunity to start digging into that. Cause I know the audience can't see you, but I can see you and I can see how uncomfortable you get every time you think about like really assertively expecting or going for those things that, would give you so much, the extra like ease and joy. Hi, I'm so excited to share with you my 2024 Spring Equinox Self-Mothering Retreat that's happening this March 2024. And I would love for you not only to consider it, but to attend. But in considering it, hey, just knowing that you would be leaving cold weather, if that's the space that you're in, and coming down to just magnificently beautiful, warm, nourishing place of Zihuatanejo, Mexico. Zihuatanejo meaning land of the goddess women. And coming to really take time for yourself. Okay. And that I am learning more and more isn't just a nice thing to do or something extravagant or something selfish. It's essential. And I really want you to take it seriously to consider, just think about what would it take for me to go. It's a 5.5-day retreat, getting from where you are, getting there, landing there, and then being in a space that is all about you. It's all about nourishing you. It's all about tuning into you, using everything around us, the nature, the food, the beautiful people, the rituals, ceremonies. I bring it, we really bring it. And we go deeper and deeper as the days go on, and we release, we let go, we bring in what is nourishing, what is empowering, what is that space of just really divine feminine energy. And we do it in the community of women. It's not for everyone. I will be honest, if the idea of leaving and not making it work or it's just too hard, not for you. If the idea of, spending that amount of time inwardly focused and going to that level of self-awareness doesn't sound like something you're willing to do or put the time and energy into, then it's not for you. And it's good to know that, right? So this is for people who are serious about what it means to mother themselves, what it means to take time for ourselves and that gift and what that gift can bring to us. It was originally right after my fall retreat. It filled right up, but now some people, it turns out, are not able to come. So I do have a handful of openings. And if you're listening to this and you're willing to take that step, please reach out to me. We can do a discovery call, or you can put a deposit down. I would love that. And you can do that by going to my website, www.drgertrudelyons, DrGertrudelyons.com. Go to events, and there you go. It'll all be there. There's a beautiful page there for you to explore. I look forward to hearing from you and then seeing you on my spring retreat.
Yeah. And where does that come from? I mean, is it just growing up? I mean,
Well,
I'm sure
where were you? Where are you in the sibling order?
I'm the oldest.
Yes. And is any of this feel familiar from in your upbringing about places where you feel like you were the responsible one, or, took charge of things?
Yeah, for sure. Always. I think as oldest child, I put that on myself. And
So that
I think
becomes
I
a
looked at,
pattern.
in school too, like even in like groups that I worked in or things like that. I always had very high expectations of myself and definite perfectionism tendencies. And I think I still have that. Sometimes to a fault. I think I've gotten better though, but definitely at one point in my life.
How do you feel as you say this? And I think I remember, like, when we can use the 5 primary emotions as much as possible, of fear, hurt, anger, sadness, or joy. But as you're sharing this or recalling, what are you noticing emotionally?
I guess it would be like fear of disappointing someone. And indifference also came to mind, but I think that came to mind just because it's just what I know and what I do. But I don't know if I'm like angry at myself at all or sad at myself at all for being that way. I mean, I think
that's a very responsible older child response, right? Like, the first person I'm going to be angry at is myself. Like, I should have done it differently, or I should have been different, versus, wait, why didn't anybody notice? And what was in my family atmosphere that, because we all take on roles in families, it's a system. We're going to, and, birth order tends to elicit certain behaviors and ways of being. It's not, cut and dry, and things can change. And your sister could have overtaken you in that role, but that didn't happen. You hung on to that role, but it was, as a child, it really served you. You probably got positive attention for it. You probably could tell maybe it made your parents happy, or they were relieved, or at ease. You felt like that somewhere along the lines, it was your job to, help take care of the family. So you saw that it did that, so it provided a lot of really positive things. It's just then we feel like that's the way to get it. And now as adults, we still think that's the only way to get it. And it feels kind of scary, like you said, or uncomfortable to let some of that role go, or expect from others, or expect other people to hold the anxiety that you're so used to holding. Partly because who will I be? Because that's the identity that you've known, Natalie. So it's scary, because who will I be if I'm not that firstborn leader, go full out, woman who takes responsibility? You're not going to lose that. And that's our fear too. Like, she'll still be there, but we want a larger requisite variety of behaviors and ways for you to get tended to. So I just said a lot again. Tell me what are you hearing?
Kind of just, I guess, that push-pull that I can have with myself on wanting to relinquish some of the responsibility, but at the same time being fearful of that. And I think there's a little bit of a feeling of, well, I do it best when I do it myself. And so delegating or letting responsibility or sharing that responsibility can feel scary. And and that's whether it's with my husband or with a colleague or whatever it might be.
Totally.
So, but I think as, I just need to have trust that I can let go and that I can trust in whomever I'm sharing the responsibility with. Because I know, my husband is also a firstborn, and I know that I can trust him to do things. It just maybe won't be done, to mom's spec. But I think there are a lot of other women who would feel, in that same boat.
Yeah. I just want to name, he's a little bit different. He has some added aspects of a firstborn that we've talked about that I think is why this dynamic isn't just, two firstborns, because he's the firstborn boy in the family. And there was a certain pampering and privilege that also came, he kind of got both, yes, I'm responsible. I'm the firstborn, and I'm this firstborn boy that has like special privileges. And so I can be responsible when I want, and I expect to be taken care of. So he kind of has both.
Right. Totally. And it's very evident like in his family too. I'm not sure if like his siblings have or have not recognized that, but me as an outsider coming in, I definitely see it. Like, everyone goes to him for answers, and he is very pampered by his mom, which is fine. But it definitely, there's like, you brought up entitlement earlier. And so I can definitely see that entitlement with him and within his family. And yeah, for whatever reason, it's just different with a male versus a female, I guess.
Well, yeah. And, every family is a little bit different, but particularly, if we're going with traditional roles and, the way things have kind of been, he was definitely raised more in that framework from what you've shared before. And I have a little bit of previous knowledge on that. So that's where you get to come in, and that's where like, it's so cool as a couple, Natalie, is that, he's, I love this term, right? He's like your perfect prick, right? So he's there to prick your unfinished business, like to prick the right where your growth and development needs to happen, and it's different when you're just a couple and you're kind of working it and you're making decisions, but it's, as you are noting, exemplified and heightened dramatically when you bring a child in, to the picture. Then suddenly it's, the stress of that, where this might've been like an issue we could kind of deal with. Now it's like, they need to have a much more serious look. And I don't mean serious, like serious, but they deserve the looking at, and it's your opportunity to shift these. He doesn't, this isn't about changing him at all. And that's, what we want to be clear on, this is, what do I need to, start practicing? And you mentioned trust, right? Like, I just need to trust that I'm going to do that. Well, that's not going to happen overnight. You're going to have to take steps toward that trust. And, what is it that I could let go of and, put in his plate as a step. Right. And that's something we want to be thinking about maybe as a step for you when we close, is what's something that I could shift here that isn't like acting like the whole thing, but I'm going to pick that thing and I'm going to assertively go for it. And have that.
Yeah.
What are you feeling?
What might that be?
I was saying, what do you feel when I say that? We don't have to get to what it is yet. That'll come.
I mean, I think, me, that's always a little bit like scary.
That's why we want to make it like a little bit of a stretch, but not too big of a stretch that, it'll feel overwhelming or you won't do it. Cause you need to have both a compassion, for that little girl, that developed these ways of being and behavior that have been so important and served you. Right. And at the same time, that they're limiting you. So what's just a step I can tell my mind? As the overachiever, you kind of feel like it has to, now I have to come out blazing and, turn everything, turn it all over and change the whole thing. But and that's going to be a good practice for you too, that, this is a journey, this is the journey that you were on as a couple to begin. Well, it's your life journey, but getting married and then having a baby is going to heighten it that much more and give you the opportunity to do it.
Right.
So can you think of something
that I could do?
Yeah.
I think like my husband is really good at saying, like, on the weekends, he likes to go disc golfing, or, so he's really good at, hey, I'd like to go disc golfing at this time, and he'll be gone for a couple of hours. And then I'm not as good at doing that, I guess. And a part of me, I think I get anxiety at the thought of like, I don't know, leaving Liam or something. It's just
No, I
this
think
weird place that I've been in.
it's not
And
weird. I don't need
so,
to name it that. It's a natural, he's just 5 months old, right? You're still birthing him. I know he's
Mhm,
outside the womb and there, but any of those times where you're, having him out of your sight, it's important, to do them, but to act like it's silly to have the feelings about it. No, I
mhm,
mean, it's part of your separation process, but I want to,
yeah.
in all of this, a huge allowance for you to have your emotions as they come
Mhm,
up.
mhm. So like with that, I think it's just, saying to him, I'm going to go to a yoga class on Saturday morning or whatever it might be. And he's been so lucky too, because my parents living with them, like my mom is so helpful. And so it has to be on a weekend where they're out of town too, because otherwise she'll gladly take Liam and, play with him all morning. And so Patrick has, gotten out of a lot of work, I think, and he knows it and is grateful for, the help for sure. But
So I want to underline something as you just said that, Natalie. It's important for their relationship too.
mhm,
Patrick isn't a caretaker of Liam. He's not like this
mhm,
person who helps you.
mhm,
You are in, and you may be dividing some of the duties differently. And I know when you're nursing, I mean, but
mhm,
the more we can now distinguish the fact that, this is a shared endeavor, and adventure. And we both have equal responsibility, but how we
mhm,
do things is one way or another. But, you know, that's something I want you really to hold, because otherwise, what can happen unconsciously in that situation is then Liam becomes your territory,
mhm,
and that relationships gets really strong, and you end up getting needs met there. And, you know, if this were left totally unconscious, that's a possible path this could take.
mhm,
So anywhere where we're interrupting that or just raising the awareness and bringing to consciousness that, oh, this is ours to figure out, right?
mhm.
And so yeah, when we have mom here and she's stepping in, but that's it's still all of ours.
I love that. I've never really thought about that in that sense, especially thinking of, like Liam as my territory and what that means for Pat and my relationship or my relationship with Liam. And not that I feel like we've gone there, but it's just an interesting point that you bring up.
Yeah.
And and like you said, being conscious of it and keeping that in the back of your mind moving forward, to make sure that healthy relationships are growing and that Liam, that or Patrick and I, like you said, it's our shared responsibility or
Mm-hmm.
shared work that we do, together
Yeah.
to raise him.
Yeah, so everything is ours in this endeavor. So I wanted to say that, and then come back to, you'll hear this in the recording. I want, you to hear the kind of hesitancy in your voice when you say, I'm going to do a yoga class, that, just practicing, whether it's how you say it to him or not. Like, I would love for you in the mirror to say, like, I'm doing a yoga class, I'm
Yeah.
doing a yoga class, and really own it and claim it. I know it sounds
Mhm,
silly, but it's not. It's the you just using your voice to fully like feel,
mhm,
that request, that yearning, that wanting, that you're meaning in that, and telling your mind like, I deserve this. This
mhm,
is of course something I should be doing for everybody's benefit. But you can
mhm,
practice saying it, and then however it comes out to Patrick, or if it's something with your parents or anybody else, like fine, but inside
mhm.
what's so. I
Right.
saw you smile with that. So
Yeah, I just think it's you're so spot on with that and how I will hesitate on speaking about how I can fulfill my own needs. Because
yeah.
I can even just think in conversations that I've had with Pat when I do the same thing.
And that's a first step, Natalie. I'd love for you in this period of time to just be aware of it and notice. Now that I've pointed that out, you'll hear yourself more, right?
Mhm,
And that's the first step. Like, it isn't always to just bust in there like, I'm doing a yoga class, damn it, and you can play with that. I'm not saying you can't, but
act some things out by myself.
Yeah, exactly. But I'm totally picturing this, but you can decide, you in front of your mirror doing that, like doing it all sorts of ways, like, and playing with
Patrick would probably be attracted to that.
Probably. Yeah. Yeah. And you fully, inhabiting it and claiming and owning, and then you can build from there. Then it's the conversations about money. It's the conversations about, and then including family and how, first, like how would I like it to be? And then how would we like it to be? And then, bringing in mom and dad for the conversations that need to happen there about, and because that's a continuous, even if you've gotten to a good place, things change, right? And the expectations or all that, but keeping that environment as clear as possible. It's tricky, but doable.
For sure. I think right now too, like a lot of just what's been weighing on my mind is all of the unknowns, and I'm really working on being present. But even right now, living at home, living in Wisconsin, when we had been living in downtown Chicago, unsure of whether or not Patrick's work will continue to be remote, and if that's an option for us in the future as far as where we might move, and me, going back to work, and where will we find childcare and all of these things. It's just like kind of a lot just swirling in my mind.
It is.
And it can be difficult sometimes to be present because of that, or I'll find myself awake in the middle of the night and Liam will still be sleeping and I'll be awake regardless because I'll have all of these swirling thoughts. And I think, one thing that can be a little bit frustrating to me on that end is that I'll try to discuss with Patrick, and I know we're probably almost at time and
we're going to wrap up in a minute, but no, that's all right. We'll scoop it in.
Yeah. So, and, sharing some of my thoughts and emotions along all of these kind of unknowns and the moving situation and Patrick's work situation, and not feeling like I'm getting very much out of him, because I guess maybe he doesn't have the answer, but still I just need something in response to, me sharing my thoughts and feelings on everything going on in our life. And he just is he isn't quite as outspoken or maybe in touch with his feelings like I am. And so that can create a little bit of a disconnect between the two of us. So that's it.
I'm so glad you brought that one up, Natalie, because I think, that's one I would love the magic wand to just be able to, instantly shift him, shift you, into that space. Because if there's one thing I would want or, envision or yearn for your couple, is that you have as open and free and expressed emotional expression, that. And that might be the journey of your couple, right? But that might not happen overnight. But if there's a yearning that I would 100%, I advocate for all of the ones that you've mentioned. But if there's one that we really want to keep in focus and in mind, is you getting that one met, and that, that can look a couple different ways. Also, that's, you again feeling the entitlement and the deserving to have him be with you. And that might start with just, you really feel his presence, and then that can move to an expectation that, he match you in emotional response, or, that he notice and is aware of what he's feeling with what you're sharing, or, the concerns and worries. So that's, for a vision for your couple that I definitely want, but we can keep building on that one for sure. You were going to say something.
Yeah. You just saying that, I'm like, what is the trick to get him to emotionally respond back to me, without getting very intense.
Well, and that's as you get more sure of yourself and assertive with the things like yoga, this is this is the bigger one that we're working toward, but always having this goal in mind that we're going there, that you starting to really believe and deserve and act in ways that you're starting to get more of what you want, what you yearn for, that'll work its way in. But right now, starting there it's probably not the best access. It's kind of like warming somebody up, but it's really about you shifting, you needing to work on and breaking some of the mistaken beliefs you've had about getting the things that you want or yearn for and having it your way and having mama be happy. So you can start telling them, like, I know you say that, but I'm going to start really doing that, and look out. Right? Because you're going to get what you asked for, and it may not have looked exactly how you thought.
Yeah.
Because my expectations from you and what, in our relationship are, they're going to change. So you can give them a little warning, and I'm going to be working on this. So be ready. And, just kind of open and clear the space in there. How does that sound?
Sure. I love it.
Now, let's have an action step. I know we named a couple, but I want you to name it and claim what are one or two things out of this that you can see, because we always we can have awareness after awareness, but if we don't engage in some way, like we talked about, some small way that's telling our system, we're going to start shifting some things, what would it be?
I think just like a big one is asking Patrick or telling Patrick that at X time, I'm going to be doing X, whether it's going to yoga or if it's, a weeknight, and I am going to go work out or meditate or go on my own solo adventure or whatever it might be, telling him that I'll be doing this and I'm going to need you to watch the child. So
good. So that's perfect. And I love it, because what you kept it out of the framework of asking him, like, can I? So once and why don't we give it, something doable? Like, you can do it as many times as you want in a week, but why don't we say, like, once a week, I will, at least once a week, I will do this. So if I decide that I want to do the yoga class on Saturday, then I will let Patrick know that I'm doing this class. Or I'm going to this, or I'm going to that. Sometimes putting it, that's something called neural implementation intention. It's this big long word, but they've studied that if-then statements help us, is kind of a trick for our mind. So if we frame it in an if-then, so if I see a yoga class on Saturday that I want to go to, then I will tell Patrick that I'm attending.
Okay. I like it.
Yeah. How does that sound? And then bonus is you practicing different ways that you're going to be asking for these things in the mirror.
Right.
Just on your own. Right? The assertive.
Get a little uncomfortable with myself, but that's good.
I know. Exactly. And but we want to start getting more comfortable with ourselves. So then it isn't as big a deal when we're out there, because we've gotten, we can affirm ourselves then, but if we can't do it with ourselves, like, the idea of doing it with someone else can be way too terrifying.
Right.
All right. So one last thing. So how are you doing?
Good. I'm thinking about practicing in front of the mirror and
hopefully uncomfortable.
What's up?
Good. Yes, because growth is uncomfortable. If we just did something that we're already doing, then what's the point, right? We got to start mixing it up a little bit. And I just want to say also, Natalie, like this is probably the longest conversation I've had with. Well, maybe have we had one since you had Liam? I
don't know if we have since I've had Liam.
Yeah.
And those couple before.
And you're doing beautifully. You're doing great. New momhood is hard.
It's
and
hard.
I think for you to be okay to and I know you've shared some moments, even on your social media about like, this was a hard day and, and reflecting all that, but I want you to have as many moments of, letting that go and letting down and having your emotions and even more. So I'm putting that invitation out.
Yes.
All right. Lastly, I don't know. I didn't tell you this at the beginning, but this was something I started doing, but I wasn't sharing it like in the actual session. I waited, but Nora said, don't put it in the session. So what I will do sometimes, and I've particularly done them for these podcast ones, is I think tarot cards are fun, right? Like I think, I don't go to them as like the answer or, but I always feel like they, lend an interesting perspective or give me something to think about or
relate to. So I like weaving it in. So I picked one before our session, like what will be supportive for Natalie, for us, together. And I'll send you a picture because I picked it outside and I left it out there. But the card that I picked, for you is actually in the cover of this book. It's, I don't know if you know this one, it's called Dreams of Gaia, but the card that was picked was Destiny. And I'll take a picture of all this and send it to you.
Yeah, I love it.
Unless you have this one, but I always kind of look it over, but then I put it aside and we'll see if it relates or if it can support you even further. So the key words under destiny are personal destiny, universal destiny, seeking answers, purpose, and quest. And some of the key phrases are: your destiny is to become whole and connected. Your destiny is to lead a life with meaning and purpose. Step inside and explore heart and mind. Discover your gifts and talents, a sense of purpose and confidence. Ancestral healing may be required. Break the chain. Remember your dreams. There's lots of beautiful things here. What are your strengths and weaknesses? Sometimes the most important destiny remain hidden. Your destiny may influence generations to come and overcome trials and obstacles. So you're going to read the whole thing, but something that I think is interesting. So this is about embracing your destiny, your personal destiny. And there's a whole lot here about past, future. I'm not going to go into all of that, but this one popped out at me. There are activities and interests that inspire your passion and love, that make you feel complete and imbue you with a sense of rightness. It is these things that you are destined to do. And they list a bunch of things. It could be anything, but the key to recognizing is how it makes you feel and what are you willing to do in order to make it a key part of your life.
I love that card for me. This is something that we didn't really speak about, but I mentioned all the swirling thoughts, and a huge, huge part of that has been kind of what's next for me. And I have been on a quest for purpose, I feel like, since I graduated college. And as you know, I'm a copywriter, and I also have my wellness coach certificate, and have been like on this like journey, or just questioning, I guess, of, what is my purpose and what comes next beyond mother. And like, I think for a while I thought, oh, maybe my purpose is to be a mom. And I realized that that's a big part of who I am now, but there's so much more that I have to offer. And so like really tapping into what lights me up and how I can explore that and make it, my next step in life. And so that's been huge, like weighing on me, and just, so that card is like perfect.
I know you're going to see even more in here about, and I always look at both, like the blockage and the whatever. I did pull it reversed, which sometimes, as you look at like, what will the challenges be? And it's about, once you start discovering what that is, it doesn't mean it'll be easy. It won't be free of difficulties and problems. Otherwise, it wouldn't be worth it. But some of them you face will be self-made and born of your insecurities and doubts, while others will be placed in your path by those who might not understand or believe in your destiny. So talking about how some may try and steer you away, well-meaning family members, but how...
which is also a big thing that's going on. Because my dad has a real estate business, and as I've been living at home, he like wants me to take it over, and I just have been like, but I think that's like getting in the way of my destiny. Wow, so super powerful. I can't wait to read it. Yeah,
and I want it to like kind of deepen and infuse what we worked on today, just give you more awareness and insight. But then it'll be that it always feels like a small step, but they're not small steps. They're really important. And I know that you'll step into it. I can't wait to hear how it goes.
Yes. Thank you so much, Gertrude.
You're welcome.
I always love our time.
Thanks, Natalie. Hi, this is Dr. Gertrude Lyons, and I have the honor and privilege to give a huge shout out and hopefully invitation to explore, listen to, and be part of the Mother podcast with McLean McGowan. I'm riveted with every episode I listen to. This is so powerful, whether you're a woman with children or around women with children or a breathing person on this planet. There's relevance for all of us, because this is such an important time right now for us all to be aware of the fact that it takes a village to raise a confident mother and not just a child, that we all are in this together, and so many beautiful stories of conception, pregnancy, birth, through interviews, every, personal sharings, that I just don't want anyone to miss it. So go there now and listen to the podcast, Mother the Mother. It's fantastic. Thank you so much for choosing yourself and taking the time to listen to this podcast. As always, please rate, review, and subscribe to subscribe to Mother. It helps other people who need this message, aka all women. Well, actually, everybody, men included. I'm honored to have you on this journey in mothering yourself. Remember, change is uncomfortable, but it's beautiful, and it starts with us. And if you can't wait until next week's episode, follow me on Instagram and LinkedIn at Dr. Gertrude Lyons, or at my website, drgertrudelyons.com. I'll see you next time.